Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said to Devaki, Tvam, you, eva, indeed, Purva Sarge, in a previous millennium, Abhuh, became Prishni, by the name Prishni, Swayambhuve, the millennium of Swayambhuva Manu, Sati, O supremely chaste, Tada, at that time, Ayam Vasudeva, Sutapa, Nama, by the name Prajapati, a Prajapati, a Kalmashaha, a spotlessly pious person. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead replied, My dear mother, best of the chaste, in your previous birth in the Swayambhuva millennium, you were known as Prishni, and Vasudeva, who was most pious Prajapati, was named Sutapa. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead made it clear that Devaki had not become his mother only now. Rather, she had been his mother previously also. Krishna is eternal, and his selection of a father and mother from among his devotees takes place eternally. Previously also, Devaki had been the Lord's mother and Vasudeva's the Lord's father, and they were named Prishni and Sutapa. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears, he accepts his eternal father and mother, and they accept Krishna as their son. The pastime takes place eternally and is therefore called Nitya Leela. Thus, there was no cause for surprise or ridicule. As confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 9, Janma karma cha me divyam, evam yo veti tattvataha, tyaktva deham punarjanma, naiti mam eti sorjuna. Quote, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. One should try to understand the appearance and disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from Vedic authorities, not from imagination. One who follows his imaginations about the Supreme Personality of Godhead is condemned. Avajananti mam mudha manushim tanumashritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. The Lord appears as the son of his devotee by his param bhavam. The word bhava refers to the stage of pure love, which has nothing to do with material transactions. Om Ajnanatirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I want to thank you and welcome all of you to Srimad Bhagavatam class. It's always a pleasure to be here and study Bhagavatam together. Krishna's just spoken and he has revealed to Devaki that she is not his mother just now, but she has been his mother previously as well. And this is many millions of years ago. So when Krishna had appeared, it was the 28th cycle in Vaivasvata Manu's period. And Vaivasvata Manu is the 7th Manu in a day of Brahma. And so previous to Vaivasvata Manu, there were 6 other Manus. And the very first one was Swayambhuva Manu. So that's the time when the day of Brahma has just begun. So whole of the creation is practically new. Because at the night of Brahma, any night of Brahma, a large part of the universe is destroyed. And it is recreated again the next morning. And sometimes we wonder, how is that possible? So a simple example is, suppose you're working at our computer all day. At the end of the day, we save our files, we shut our computer. So when we shut our computer, what happens is all of our data in the computer is fragmented or stored in small pockets everywhere. So the files, the way we knew it, don't exist per se. And when we crank open our computer again the next day and hit the button and start it off, all those little packets of data come back together and recreate your files. So the night of Brahma is when a large part of the universe is gone away, and then it has to be recreated the next day. It has to be put together. So everything is afresh. And so the very first Manu is Swayambhuva Manu. What's being spoken about is this particular day of Brahma, the day that we are part of. Okay? One day of Brahma in Vedic calendar is called a Kalpa. And so this day of Brahma that we are part of is called Shveta Varaha Kalpa. Every day has a name. Just as we have Tuesday, Wednesday, and they repeat again and again. But every time I say Wednesday, we know which Wednesday because there is a date associated with it. So similarly, for when we say Shveta Varaha Kalpa, we know which day, which year, according to Brahma's calendar. So in this day of Brahma, the very first Manu is Swayambhuva Manu. And during his time, there were 2 persons, Sutapa and Prishni. And Sutapa was Prajapati. In English, Prabhupada translates Prajapati as progenitor. A person who's charged with the responsibility of populating the universe. In any new place, when settlers come, one way of establishing their presence is that they have a lot of children. And then they go on, and they have their children, they go on, they have their children, and suddenly that whole place becomes filled with persons of a certain family or kind. We call them settlers. So when this universe was created, there's nothing, no living beings yet. And they have to be created. They have to be brought forth. So the Prajapatis have this service, if you will, of populating the universe with the 8,400,000 species. So the Prajapati at that time was Sutapa. Now one may think, what a wonderful service to have so many kids. Because to have kids you have to have some activity before that, which is the most attractive activity. It's like, wow, full license to go on at it morning to night. That's great. I would love to be a Prajapati. One might think so. So Lord Krishna qualifies Sutapa as akalmashaha. Kalmasha means contaminated. And akalmasha means free of contamination. So Prabhupada writes, a spotlessly pious person. Because you can have a white sheet and have one black dot, and guess everyone's attention will go to that one black dot. But if it has to be spotlessly clean, even one small black dot should not be there. So Sutapa was such a person that is populating the universe without any tinge of the contaminating sexual desire. And his wife, she's as glorious as he is, was Prishni. And Krishna had accepted to become their son. And that's coming up in the next few verses. He's going to reveal to them. His name was Prishni Garbha. Now the question is, how did they not remember? So one of the references in Bhagavad Gita is Arjuna asks the same question. When Krishna is saying in 4th chapter, I spoke this Bhagavad Gita knowledge to Vivaswan. Vivaswan spoke to his son, Manu, Swayambhuva Manu. Manu spoke it to Ikshvaku, and like that it has been coming down from king to king for all these generations. So Arjuna says, hold on a second. You're my cousin and friend, and you're only a few years older than I. When did you speak all this? So Krishna says, Bahuni me vititani janmani tavacha Arjuna. Oh, you and I, Arjuna, have had many, many births. I remember everything. Arjuna, you don't. Tvam na vetaha. You don't remember. And one of the reasons Krishna takes away that remembrance is one, because we are souls, conditioned souls, and that kind of memory may not be necessary unless and until our service requires it. But Krishna has remembrance. So when body changes, memory goes away, or memory changes. Not for Krishna, because his body never changes. Although he takes so many forms, his body never changes. This is one of the so-called paradoxes about Krishna, that how can his body keep on changing, or forms keep on changing, but who he is never changes. So for that matter, we say that we are also someone who never change, because we are this living entity, but we take on so many forms. The distinction is that all of Krishna's forms are Sat, Chit and Ananda forms. So there is no matter associated with those forms. In our case, all those forms have matter associated with it, and hence no memory of from one body to another. It's called death, change of body. So he's describing that Tvam eva purva sarge abhu. In a previous millennium, you were there. Prishni, that was your name. Sati, oh chaste one, your name was Prishni. And at that time, this Vasudev was Sutapa Nama. His name was Sutapa. Prajapati Rakalmashaha. Very, very, very elevated persons you have been. Or you were, and I was your son at that time. So then Prabhupada explains that one should try to understand the appearance and disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from Vedic authorities, not from imagination. So let's talk a little bit about imagination. Imagination, the word comes from image. Imagination means forcing the mind to put a picture of how things are. And that is, the mind has a capacity to visualize in one way using the existing data that the five senses bring in. We have 5 data gathering senses called Gyanendriyas: eyes, nose, ears, tongue, and skin. And we gather information. But none of the senses interpret any information. They just are taking in, they're only observing. The interpretation happens in the mind. For example, when we look at something, the eyes don't interpret it, the mind interprets it. And that interpretation is called imagination. And sometimes it's accurate and sometimes it's not. When the mind only hovers around what we call observation, we call it fairly accurate. For example, and B. Krishna Maharaj dealt with it in detail, so I'm not entering that phase. When you observe, for example, I'm observing that during Bhagavatam class, a lot of heads start like this and end up like that. That's just the natural trajectory of the head for Bhagavatam class. That's an observation. But why? Who knows? Someone did not sleep well the previous night. The speaker is extremely sedating. That's a possibility as well. But we don't know that. So we use some imagination, some interpretation. So that generally may not be right. But this is information within our grasp. So we can fairly say, I'm seeing some heads go this way, must be my really fantastic speech, whatever. But then what about things that are beyond our capacity to understand? What do? Then we imagine. By words, when we hear words, we imagine. For example, let's say none of us has ever been to the Amazon river and the tropical jungle there. We've only seen it in movies, but we've never been there. At least I've not been there. I'm assuming. If anyone been there? Okay. You've been there? All right, so you close your ears for the next 30 seconds, okay? Suppose none of us has been there, or they come from Guyana, and they will explain to us, we have papaya trees that only grow this high, and each fruit is this big. We have avocados that are this huge, and if you eat it, it's a whole meal in itself. One of my friends, Paramatma Prabhu, is explaining. He has a lemon or a lime tree that only grows this much, but it has so many limes on that tree. Coconut tree doesn't grow more than 8 feet tall, so he can just pluck coconuts and have fresh water. I've never seen a coconut tree like that. So when he says, all I have to do is from the words, imagine something. oh, how big should a coconut tree be? I have some idea of that picture because I have an experience of coconut tree. So now you take it even further and someone says, Krishna has appeared as such and such personality, and all we have is our imagination power. Okay? So if we close our eyes, and suppose I ask you to do this experiment, okay? You want to try? Let's close our eyes and imagine, close our eyes. You're afraid to fall asleep? Okay, close our eyes. And this is the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead who appeared as a boar incarnation. Okay? One day Lord Brahma had some little tickle in his nose and he sneezed. And from that sneeze appeared a tiny little entity that in a few seconds started growing into this big, massive form as Varahadev. And that form became so big that the residents of Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka and Bhumi could simultaneously see that form because it was so big. So the boar that appeared had these tusks, this massive, gigantic form. What form? Okay, open your eyes. What did you imagine? You can only draw a picture of, in your mind, of a boar, how that might look, right? Do you think that if actual Varahadev came here, our picture would match that? No. At best, we might have a picture from Prabhupada's books with Varahadev and Bhumi, right? That's maybe a picture, but that picture also doesn't have the details in it that we can remember. So we're relying on imagination by certain words. So Prabhupada is telling us that the form of the Lord should be heard carefully from Vedic authorities, not imagination. You cannot imagine the picture of Krishna. However, the mental capacity of taking words and drawing a picture is important. Because when Dhruva went to the forest, he met Narada. And Narada Muni gave him a whole description of Lord Vishnu and who he should meditate on from the toes all the way to the face, and the tripe of the crown, the shark-shaped earrings, the Kaustuba jewel, the Srivatsa mark on his chest, etc., etc. And this little boy had never seen Vishnu. But he heard from Narada the specific descriptions. So while he was standing and meditating on the banks of the Ganges or Yamuna river, that form was his meditation. So the form comes into our minds, or we can, by the words that describe that form. Therefore we say, every morning we sing, right? Venum Kwanantam, Krishna is holding a flute. Aravinda Dalayataksham, his lotus petal-like eyes. Barahavatam Samasitam, he has his forehead or crown is decorated with a peacock feather. Buddha Ambuda Sundarangam, his body is as beautiful and wonderful as the fresh rain cloud, etc., etc. So these words give a sense of picture for our mind. Otherwise, if people have to remember or think of Krishna without this description, it will be an imagined picture. We don't know how Krishna looks. So we have to take help of these words in Vedic literature to form that picture in mind. So for Dhruva, when that picture became solidified in his mind, instead of some flickering something, it became a steady vision that he could grasp the presence of the Lord in his mind. That picture vanished. As soon as he vanished, he was startled and he opened his eyes. And that very same form was standing in front of him. So in this case, Lord Vishnu or Krishna is standing, and Devaki has a concern. The concern she has is, previous verse she used the word vidambanam. Vidambanam is being ridiculed, or it's impossible. So people will say, Devaki, you were carrying Vishnu in your womb? How is that possible? Because that verse contains that the entire creation is within him. How can he be within you? So people will not believe that I gave birth to Vishnu. They will ridicule me. I'll become a topic of, or I'll become an object of heckling, if you will, and ridicule. Because it's not possible. That personality who can never take birth, who never takes birth, has now taken birth. How is that possible? Right? Lord Vishnu never takes birth. But he has appeared here as her child. So she's concerned people will never understand or believe. In fact, they may ridicule. So he's telling her, please don't feel like that. You've actually been my mother previously. So this conversation is evoking the parental or maternal affection within Devaki by telling her, you've already been my mother. What Krishna is doing now is, from this four-armed form that he has in front of her, and she's like, wow. He's bringing her into this maternal affection mode. You've been my mother previously. He's telling her, you were Prishni and this was Sutapa. He hasn't told them yet that I was your son, but he's giving them a picture of their past to allay, to somehow pacify her concern that she might be an object of ridicule. It's not a false ego thing, oh, some people will ridicule me, how do I deal with it? It's not like that. So Prabhupada is making sure that we understand Krishna's appearance and disappearance. Not just Krishna's, any of the form of the Lord. So that's one thing. And then the next is this appearance in human-like form, which the concept of the Lord appearing itself is bewildering, and then appearing as in a human-like form is the icing on the cake. It bewilders a person completely. Because when Varaha appeared, very quickly it was clear this is not an ordinary boar. Because he became so massive in size. And, if you've seen an animal, if it's wet, then it shakes himself like this and sprinkles all the water around to dry himself or itself. So after killing Hiranyaksha from the Garbha ocean, when earth was brought up, the boar shook himself this way, Varahadev, and all the water was sprinkled on all the upper 7 layers of the universe. And all the great sages felt great purification because of those droplets falling on them. So it was very clear, this is not ordinary, this is Varaha, this is the Supreme Lord. Anyone has a doubt whether Narasimhadev is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? When he breaks through the pillar, no one's like, who's this guy? Wow, even Hiranyakashipu for a moment was stunned. Whoa. But the problem is when the Lord appears as Rama or Krishna, that's when things get totally confusing. Because they look very ordinary, human-like. When Lord Ramachandra, because of his beauty and his appearance, no one thought that he is so strong. One of my favorite verses is Shurpanaka goes, and I think I've said this, Shurpanaka goes to Khara, her brother, to inform, because her nose and ears have been cut off by Lakshmana. She goes to inform Khara. And Khara asks, who's done this to you? Who's that person who has the guts and the ability to do this to you. And she said, it's not one, there are two of them. And she describes them. Sukumaro Mahabalo. So Sukumara, Kumara means boys, Sukumara means very tender children. Sukumara means very tender. So Krishna and Rama and Lakshmana looked very tender. When children are there, you can't assess their strength, or you say, man, these guys are not strong because they're very tender. So she says, Sukumaro Mahabalo. So don't get bewildered by them looking very gentle and tender. Mahabalo, they're very, very strong. So Krishna also, when Krishna comes to Mathura, he and Balaram, they look like ordinary 10-year-old boys, 10 or 11-year-old boys. Very delicate. Not like Chanura and Mushtika, completely ripped like this. It's not like, they were not like that. And so when Chanura and Mushtika saw, and their brothers, because they all were fighting Krishna and Balaram, they saw them, they laughed and said, this is not even a match for us. Come on, Kamsa. But when they started fighting, they were shocked how strong Krishna and Balaram were. And Kamsa was the strongest of all these persons. Krishna jumped up, brought him to the ground with one punch on his chest. Done with Kamsa. Such a tender looking boy. How could he do it? Because he's the strongest. So this human-like form of Rama and Krishna among all the avatars are the most bewildering avatars. You cannot understand through imagination how they can do something like this. And it's not just for ordinary people. Even the greatest persons in the universe cannot assess. Case in point, Indra. When Krishna lifted the Govardhan hill, Indra, can you imagine what Indra would have gone through in his head? A little kid, 7-year-old boy, lifted the Govardhan on his pinky of his left hand without any shaking and, difficulty sweating, someone do something quickly. No, it's nothing like that. Krishna was eyeing the gopis and smiling as if the hill was not even there. And Indra was completely bewildered as to how that is even possible from a little boy. Even greater than Indra is Lord Brahma. There's a little boy sitting and distributing yogurt and, doing something very seemingly childish. He took away all the cows, calves, and the boys. And by the time he came back from the cave, everyone's right there. Even Brahma for a moment was like, what's going on here? The greatest of the mystics. Imagine if you have David Copperfield. Of course, no comparison between David Copperfield and Lord Brahma, but David Copperfield is one of the greatest magicians. So suppose he's doing some fantastic magic trick, and some ordinary person from the crowd, suppose he's walking through the Great Wall of China. He did the trick. And they had heartbeat monitors all through the wall, so they could actually get his heartbeat through the Great Wall of China, and he came out on the other side. So somebody from the crowd, some little kid, as David Copperfield is walking through the wall, that little kid also walks in and says, hey, imagine what David Copperfield will go through. Who's this guy? Lord Brahma, the greatest of mystics, was challenged by Lord Krishna. And he's like, wow. Why? Because that human-like form is very, very difficult to understand. Therefore the verse, Janma karma chame divyam. You have to be liberated personality, or you have to be a candidate for liberation to understand Krishna's appearance and activities. So I can't speak on that verse. And then Krishna says, Avajananti mam mudha. Those who are mudhas, meaning foolish in many ways, One can be foolish because of ignorance. One can be foolish because of knowledge. Right? How? Because one is attached so doggedly to one's own conceptions of knowledge that when something else is presented, they have absolutely no way to grasp it. So they can be foolish in that way. So great scholars, because of their knowledge, can be foolish in this sense. When Krishna's offering, here's, I don't want to say about Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, but the great personality, so vastly learned. When Lord Chaitanya was sitting in front of him and he was told, this is the Supreme Lord. Oh, no way. It's not possible. So, Mudha, Manushim Tanum, that human-like form, then all the problem comes. People think that human-like means human. That's the problem. Krishna is not an ordinary human. So he does not have the limitations as a human being has. Although he acts as if he is. I am hungry. Can I get something to eat? At the same time, we'll lift up Govardhan hill. Lord Ramachandra comes to the ocean and says, I need to cross over to the other side. Can you please help? It's not possible. But it's part of the Leela that persons who understand how these beautiful human-like forms of the Lord, they operate, then it's a joy. But Ravana and all these people had a very wrong assessment of Lord Ramachandra or Kamsa, of Krishna, etc. So we should be very careful and joyfully appreciate this. And then finally Prabhupada says that Krishna's appearance as human-like, or Lord Ramachandra's appearance as human-like, is a very conscious and deliberate act from the Lord's side. And he says, Param Bhavam. Param Bhavam means two things. Bhava means nature. Param Bhava means Krishna is saying, I have a superior nature that I can appear anywhere and everywhere as I wish. Unlike any of us as living entities, we are forced to appear within a species. That's one meaning of Parambhava. Another meaning of Parambhava, Krishna says, it's my great ecstasy and delight to appear as the son of my devotees. Same with Vamana. Vamana had appeared as a dwarf. When he said, I need 3 paces of land, everyone started laughing. Bali Maharaj said, it's a very foolish request you're making. Here I am offering you an entire planet, if you like, and you want 3 paces of land. One of the things about dwarfs is that they have a long torso and short legs. So a person with short legs, if you say they want 3 paces of land, they can't cover much. That's why he appeared as a dwarf. Vamana means dwarf. We say midget. If you have long legs, then you can cover a lot of land. But if you have short legs, 3 paces is nothing. So Bali actually started laughing. Come on, 3 paces? That's nothing. I'm going to give you a planet if you like. I can make you so rich that you will never have to go again anywhere to beg from anyone for the rest of your life. And Vamana said, a Brahman should not be greedy, should live within his means. So just give me 3 paces of land. He sipped water. Om, Tat, sure. Vamana became so huge. With 1 foot covered the entire Bhumandala, 1 foot covered entire upper mandala, and said, where do I put the 3rd foot, man? I've covered the whole universe now. You haven't fulfilled your promise. Wow. So these forms are not ordinary. It's part of the joyful Leela. Okay. Any questions, comments, thoughts?
Very nice class. And Prabhu, still, can you explain furthermore about Param Bhava? Because in the last paragraph, it is stated that by pure love, that means Krishna becomes son. So I was wondering, so is it then is it imagination or just by practical? Like he says, for example, Krishna took shelter in the womb of Devaki, then she was looking so brilliant in her face, everything, even demigods, everybody, they came and prayed. So it's confusing, like how is that Krishna takes birth by Param Bhava, he's telling, in that line it is stated.
Bhava refers to the stage of pure love, which has nothing to do with material transactions. When a child is in the womb, by seminal insemination or so, by insemination, and then comes out through the birthing canal full of amniotic fluid and everything else, blood and all that, that's a material transaction. But Param Bhava, Krishna is in the heart of Devaki, and the appearance or the feeling or sensation of he being in her womb, but appeared with Chaturbhuja, 4 arms, helmet, kundala, keyura, means all the ornaments, Srivatsa. Can a mother ever deliver a child like that? So out of great love for Devaki and Vasudev, he appeared as their son, Param Bhavam. So it's not imagination, but the sensation is also not imagination. Krishna is there. Krishna is everywhere. So another, which was commonly spoken about, is go back to that scene where in the beginning of Bhagavatam, Uttara comes running to Krishna. Deva Deva Mahabaho, Bhaktanam Abhayankara. And she says, Yatra Mrityu Parasparam. I see death everywhere. She has Parikshit in her womb. And Krishna smiles. And the next shloka says that Parikshit saw thumb-sized personality of Godhead. Alright? So if Krishna was in the womb with Parikshit, the question is, what was Uttara seeing? Did he vanish from there and Uttara, like, where's Krishna? Where's Krishna? He was just here for a moment. What happened? Did he vanish somewhere? Oh no, he's in the womb. Then he came out and said, I took care of it. It's not like that. Krishna standing in front of Uttara, listening to her prayers, while simultaneously he is protecting Parikshit Maharaj in the womb. Both saw Krishna. So Krishna is already in the womb. Krishna is outside the womb. He is on earth. He is outside the earth. He is in the universe. He is outside the universe. He is in the universe. Whole of universe is in him. So how do we understand that? Not through logic, but through purity. So I had heard this many years ago, which made a lot of sense, that anything material we can understand through logic. And anything spiritual we have to understand through purity. Purity. Logic will not help. Now, how can one logically explain Krishna's presence everywhere? Purity is the only way to understand it. So what pure people can easily understand, materialists cannot fathom. Ya nisha sarva bhutanam, yasyam jagrati samyami. When they are awake, what they are awake to, the materialists are asleep to. And what the materialists are awake to, the transcendentalists are asleep to. It doesn't matter to them. Okay. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for your class. My comment and question related to imagination. You were speaking about how we like to become Prajapatis, not because of Prajapatis, but the activity. And you may like this one because it's something enlightening that it's very enlightening, but it's from something mundane. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Basically, it's a long story, but basically, Will Smith in the episode, he wanted to, like most people, wanted to exploit a girl.
Keep that a little away.
Oh, sorry. He wanted to exploit a woman for sex, but she was a Christian, so she said no sex until marriage. And so then he got his friend named Jazz to pretend to be a priest, and 2 days later they got married. So before he went through with with his low character exploitation, she gave him a gift that was handed down through her family through generations, something sentimental and love. So she gave it to him, and he felt kind of guilty. So then he revealed that I'm a scumbag, and she punched his lights out, stole his car, and then he had to confess to his uncle, and his uncle chastised him. He said, I can't believe what's going through your sick, disgusting. So Will, he justified himself. He said, Uncle Phil, he said, I'm a victim too. I'm a victim of my imagination. So I really appreciate that point. And so my question is related to that point that you said our imagination is sometimes accurate and sometimes inaccurate. Like Ramachandra Khan, his imagination of Haridas Thakur was inaccurate. He was envious of him. But Prahlad Maharaj, even if his imagination was accurate, which it was, if his assessment, he says, Hiranyakashipu, you're a demon. He even called him that, a demon. It was accurate. But that assessment didn't make him unhappy. There's a quote that says, you would never invite a thief into your house, so why would you allow thoughts that steal your joy to make themselves at home in your mind? There's many things that steal our joy, like envy or vengeance. Prahlad was never vengeful, so what are some steps we can move forward to not allow these thieves, because even if our assessment of someone's character is accurate, but still it's not bringing us happiness, and we hear that Krishna is the ability man, he can only give us that tolerance, these qualities. So what are some steps we could do to get Krishna's mercy? Because that's the tendency, is that when we have an assessment of someone, it may be accurate, even if it is, it doesn't give us any happiness. So what is the use of it? So what are some steps we can move forward to gain Krishna's mercy to get those good qualities, that ability of tolerance, forgiveness?
Even as practicing devotees, we sometimes imagine Krishna and Krishna's reciprocation towards us. Sometimes we say, I've been praying, but Krishna has been heartless and nothing has happened. Or I don't know, Krishna is not allowing this to happen, or Krishna is making that happen. And the reality may be quite different. But it is joyful because the devotee at least is thinking of Krishna in that way. But it still might be quite distinct from reality. So there's a reality, and at the other end of the continuum is imagination. Now, for devotees, the reality and imagination, if you will, meaning the picture of the mind about Krishna, becomes reality or accurate by the process of hearing. This is why Krishna is called, the very beautiful verse in Bhagavatam, which I'm sure we have heard over and over and over again, is Yato Bhaktir Adhokshaje. Right? That we are supposed to perform bhakti towards someone who we cannot see, hear, touch, taste, smell, talk to, cannot imagine, no way. Outside of all of that, how am I supposed to do that? And that too lovingly. Am I nuts? People think, well, what's right? Yato bhaktir adhokshaje. And that too apratihati, ahaituki. Like, wow, apratihata and ahaituki. It's not possible. So it's the guru or the acharyas and the process itself that close the gap between adhokshaja, that he who is not perceivable, into the realm of perceivability. That's the process that closes that gap. So Prahlad's view of the assessment of the surroundings and Hiranyakashipu and the Lord is on the basis of hearing from Narada Muni when he was in the womb. But Hiranyakashipu or anyone else did not hear. See, even in Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, the transformation is from hearing. When Gopinath Acharya tells him, oh, hold on a second, gives him this long list of references. Oh, until then it was not possible. Now Ravana also heard from great authorities, including Vibhishan, but no effect on him. Right? When Lord Balaram went to Hastinapur to meet all the Kurus, they insulted him when he said, please give back Aniruddha, because they had captured him. And Usha, they said, who are you to tell us? You are after all a cowherd men. We are great Kshatriyas. Lord Balaram became so mad and angry, put his plow and said, is that what your pride is about Hastinapur? I'm going to mix this Hastinapur into the Yamuna river. Dragged it. Then they all came to sense, oh Balaram, you're not an ordinary person. So our senses can bewilder us. That's the whole problem here. So Prabhupada writes, one must hear from Vedic authority. This is the only sense, the ear, that although material has the ability to accept spiritual sound, it remains pure even when the rest of the body is impure. That's why the Brahmins put the thread to the ear. It's the only organ as the ear, because everything else that you take in is material. This is the only organ that, while being material per se, can take in spiritual sound. And then all the organs become spiritualized. So Shravanam comes first in the long list. And the mantras are given in the ear, the right ear. Certain mantras on the left, but the Gayatri is all given in the right ear. This is the only avenue. Okay? Yes, man.
Thank you so much for that lecture on imagination.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you because you came all the way from Guyana for the Bhagavatam class. Must have been a long flight to get here early in the morning.
Actually, when I was in Guyana, I used to imagine when I hear about Kishore Kishori, and it was nothing as it is here. I would imagine the fire and how you come in, and it was totally different. And I would look at the Bhagavatam class and would see that tree that is there behind. I would be like, what is that is there? And when I came, I saw it was the tree that was there. So that's the power of imagination.
Yes, and that tree is the longest standing devotee in the building.
Yes, also about imagining about Krishna form, my favorite pastime that I have read and now I listen over and over is Radharani with the bumblebee. I would laugh and I would smile and I'm there. That is not imagination because I'm there. I'm there, the words I would go over and over and over. And it is true, we have to have the description from the Vedic sense in order to be there, to transpose there. So that is not imagination, I'm thinking, because we are there. We have all the description and we're transposed there. Also, you just said about hearing. When I am waiting on a train, because I found someone read about the Radharani purport and the bumblebee, and when I'm waiting on the train, I would listen to it, and I'm laughing and smiling what Radharani is saying to the bumblebee, and I guess people are thinking I'm mad because I'm totally there. So yes, hearing is no matter what, I'm spiritified, I'm there no matter what is going on. So thank you so much.
Proper hearing transports us to where the subject matter is. I've also seen people on the train station hearing music. No one else is aware of what that is going on, because it transports us. It's a powerful sense. Rupa Goswami therefore tells us, Ata Sri Krishna Namadi na bhavet grahyam indriyer. Our senses cannot perceive. Grahyam means to actually hold on to or grab. It's not possible. And that is not just about Krishna's form, but Nama Adi. So Krishna's name, form, pastimes, qualities, our senses cannot grasp unless there is a transformation or a purification of those senses, beginning with, he says, Jivadao, Swayameva Spruhati. Then Krishna reveals himself. So Krishna is revealing himself to us in different degrees in proportion to the intensity of our eagerness. And our eagerness is more like a on-off switch. Sometimes it's on, and then is off like wow, and then on again and off again. But the idea is let it be on and stay on. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.